Welcome to Cox OC Connection. I'm Lacy Kelly. Today on Civic Connection, I'm visiting with Diana Coronado. Diana is the Legislative and Member Services Manager for the Association of California Cities. Welcome, Diana.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So we're here to talk about the legislative update this season in the legislature, how it's shaping up. So give us an overview.
Well, we are towards the end, we're totally at the end of bill introduction. So everyone who's wanted to introduce a bill out of all the members in both the Assembly and the Senate have already done so. They're making their way to the committees. This year it's a little bit slower process. We should probably have already had a few more committee hearings than we had so far, but moving slowly but surely. Still have a lot of bills. Over 1,545 bills were introduced, which is actually a lower amount than past years.
Really? Okay.
Yes, surprisingly.
It still sounds like a lot.
Absolutely.
And what a lot of people don't maybe know about you is you spent the last 5 years before you went to the Association of California Cities in the legislature, so you have the insider baseball scoop on how this all works. Why is it moving slower than prior years?
It's the first year of a 2-year session, so typically legislators will take a little bit more time in this first year, knowing that they have another year ahead of them to deliver upon any kind of bill ideas they have. So I anticipate that next year we'll probably see a lot more bills and trying to move through the process a little bit more quickly as well.
Okay, excellent. So in your role, you really work to protect cities in Orange County as a community from legislation that might be harmful to the region. Is there anything you're particularly focused on right now?
We're focused on quite a few bills. Our main priorities are, of course, local control, making sure that the state doesn't continue to use monies that should be allocated to municipalities for general fund purposes. Of course, the governor has laid out a lot of legislative priorities this year relating to climate and emission reduction, including transportation, and we've also seen a lot of emergency drought relief bills. So we're focused on all those topics and how it's going to affect Orange County cities specifically, especially as implementation comes around and language gets cemented.
I know that you recently sent out a letter on a specific piece of legislation, SB 355. Could you tell us why that's critical for Orange County?
Absolutely. SB 355 looks to remove one of Orange County's representatives off of the Rivers, Mountains, and Conservancy Board. That is critical because that would cut our representation in half on that board.
Okay. And what kinds of things does the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy control?
Yeah, a lot of folks probably haven't even heard of that type of board that we have that most represents Southern California cities, including 10 Orange County cities. But of course, it has a regional collaborative environment with all of those Southern California cities. That commission's, and should say board's, main purpose is to help allocate Prop 1 funds, especially as it relates to rivershed restoration and urban creek restoration. So that is especially critical this year because Orange County needs those funds.
And Prop 1, if I'm correct, is the water bond, right?
Correct. That water bond was passed this past election cycle in 2014, and now we're in the implementation process of those Prop 1 funds.
Okay, so with those 10 cities, then they're probably in the watershed that the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy impacts. So would that have any impact on our water replenishment system if we were to lose that? Okay.
The Rivers and Mountains Conservancy Board encompasses part of the Santa Ana River, which feeds 75% of Orange County's water replenishment system. So it's hugely critical to our county and the region.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for your leadership on that. I understand ACC has its own bill running through the legislature. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. We've decided to sponsor a bill this year. It was a local bill brought to us by the city of Villa Park. The bill is AB 1454, carried by Assemblyman Don Wagner from Orange County. The bill looks to save Orange County millions of dollars in monies saved from trash amendments that were proposed by the State Water Control Resource Board.
You have a lot of long names you have to remember. You're doing a great job. So how are you getting Orange County as a whole on board with supporting some of this? I know it comes organically,
Sure.
But with AB 1454, how are you communicating with the members and key stakeholders?
Well, we have a legislative and regulatory committee out of ACCOC. We meet once a month and talk about all the bills and issues coming down from Sacramento and regional issues happening in our own county, and discuss how our cities feel about it, how our stakeholders feel about it, and it gives them the opportunity to let us know where they stand on specific issues. And we also are able to educate them on the bills that are coming down and how they're going to affect their cities that they may not have been aware of before. So we're able to vet those ideas, like our bill, AB 1454, which seems to be very nuanced because it has to do with regional issues in the area that have come down from the State Water Resource Board.
Mm-hmm. And so when you talk about trash, it all sounds really great. People want to get rid of their trash, but there's some specific reasons why this does not apply to Orange County. Can you share a little bit why that is?
Sure. So just going back for some context, the State Water Resource Control Board issues out an ocean plan every 3 years. This year's ocean plan proposed trash amendments for this Orange County that would be a full capture system, meaning that it would change our trash collection infrastructure completely, costing counties and cities millions of dollars, upwards of $70 million in this county specifically. Mm-hmm. Other counties have adopted this type of trash control because they had severe trash issues, and that's worked for them, which is great. Mm-hmm. However, in Orange County, we are in almost full compliance, and we already meet our trash collection needs. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily a regional issue for us, but it is being implemented here despite that fact.
Okay. So you're saying we can meet the goal without expending millions and millions of dollars?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We already are doing that. We've already in full compliance. And this bill, our bill 1454, really hopes that the State Water Resource Control Board decides to delay the implementation mm-hmm. because a lot of their amendments were based off of legislation passed last year, SB 270, a Padilla bill that looked to ban plastic bag use. Mm-hmm. However, in February, that bill was deemed inoperative because it was eligible for a referendum, which will be put on the ballot in November 2016. So until the fate of SB 270 is decided, our bill urges the fact that that should still be a compliance method, because the trash amendments now to say it's not a compliance method, which is difficult for cities because the compliance and control and omits regulatory service control from compliance. So it's a very complicated issue.
Yeah, it sounds like it, but you're on top of it.
Right.
But thank you so much for sharing that. You have a number of other ways that you communicate with cities. You do some alerts. Tell us about how you prepare cities to weigh in and help themselves.
So now that a bunch of bills have been introduced, they were being introduced every day up to the deadline on February 27th, and we would put out action alerts and continue to put on action alerts called just-in alerts mm-hmm. that alert cities of what is happening in the moment, in time. The governor just signed emergency drought relief bill, and we put out an alert letting cities know that this is coming down the pipeline and it's being expedited quickly, which is abnormal. That's not typically how bills get introduced and passed through the legislative process, but this mm-hmm. is a very specific issue. And having that knowledge from the association is greatly important for helping cities know what they have to do next and how
sure.
they have to act.
Sure. And some cities have really lost some of their legislative support over the recession in mm-hmm. past years because of budget cuts and stuff. So what are some of the things you're doing to sort of do that work for them? Do you have like sample letters and stuff that...
Absolutely. We do legislative tracking, customized tracking for each city. We've already had many inquiries. We are able to check which cities decide to prioritize what bills and track them through the legislative process for them, and also pool key bills that we think that they might also be interested in that they're not currently tracking, which is a huge help for cities. Mm-hmm. In addition to the Legislative and Regulatory Committee, we have 7 other standing committees that help cities, anything from our Water Committee to Economic Development, pension reform. All those issues are incredibly important for cities, and we're able to facilitate those conversations for them.
You've got a big job.
Yeah, but it's fun and rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lot of work to be done. So tell us about your advocacy trips.
Sure. We just came back from our Sacramento advocacy trip. It was hugely vital for our region to come together in a collaborative way with business and nonprofits, our local elected officials and cities, to voice our concerns and voice what we would like our legislators to do in Sacramento. And we had over 36 legislative meetings, and we got to meet with the governor, in fact, which was a real treat because he does not go out ever.
Yeah.
And so that was exciting. And we're actually getting ready for our Washington, D.C. trip in May.
Okay.
And that would be a very similar trip, except before we go to the national capital and talk to congressional leaders, our senators, and discuss issues at the federal level that are going to be affecting California and specifically Orange County.
Absolutely. Excellent. I think a lot of our viewers may not know that their local leaders are really going to Sacramento and DC and really representing their interests. How many people did you have on the Sacramento trip?
We had over 60 people on our Sacramento trip.
That's phenomenal.
It was, and it was the most people that had gone on the trip in the last 5 years that we've been collaborating with the Orange County Business Council. So we were incredibly excited about that.
Yeah. So folks that want to know more about the legislative process or what ACCOC is doing, how can they find out?
They can go to our website. We put all of our sample support letters, all of the legislation we're tracking on there, and they can also call our office. I'm there and available to help as with anything that our cities may need. I encourage them to come to our committees, especially if they're members. In the case that they're not, we still support all of Orange County cities and look to make sure that our region is being heard and our voices are being taken seriously.
And is it accurate to say that a member of the public could potentially use one of those sample letters on your website or whatever to go ahead and, you know, people like you often hear, well, when I grew up, I was writing my legislator from the time I was 5 years old. But not everybody is in that boat, but maybe they would like to be, they just don't know how. So could they utilize your resources then to go ahead and contact their legislator and talk about these issues?
Yes, of course. We encourage them. We want our citizens, the constituents of the elected officials that we work with to be able to contact their legislators and get more information from us on what we're tracking and what is important to Orange County and what the county is also supporting or opposing. We certainly encourage that.
Yeah, well, I know with a lot of what you do, when we're working on issues that have to do with local control or funding, that has a direct impact on the residents here in Orange County. And so thank you for the great work that you're doing. I know you're working really hard, and we appreciate you being on the show today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Well, that's it for Civic Connection. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.